We are back with Democratic strategist Colin Rogero and Republican strategist Marissa Martinez. She previously served as political director for Governor Charlie Baker's re-election campaign. Great to have you guys.
Thank you.
So interesting new polling out from Morning Consult. And Sagar and I always love when they do the second choice voter preference because it shows you so much about how the race could shift eventually if one or the other of the top candidates starts to drift downwards. And what was really fascinating about these results is it showed a lot of stability for these top three in the race, if we can throw them up here. If you ask Biden supporters who their second choice is, 28% pick Sanders and 26% pick Warren, so pretty even split there. Sanders supporters, you ask them who their second choice is, it's Biden and Warren, pretty evenly split. Warren supporters, you ask them who their second choice is, it's Sanders and Biden, pretty evenly split. So, Colin, to me, this just confirms what I've been saying here for a while, that this is truly down to a three-person race at this point.
It really is, and thank goodness we don't have ranked choice voting in these, or that would that would make the polling a whole lot different.
That blows my mind. I just can't even wrap my head around it.
But you're right.
Maybe it's a good thing for democracy, but I'm not smart enough to figure it out.
The field is still solidifying. I think noticeably absent from there, is Kamala Harris, and I think we have to ask what's happened there. But I think we've got a pretty solid three-person field. Now things can still go bump in the night. We've got a long time until January, until the primaries actually start. But the field looks like it's solidifying now. You're right.
Well, and Colin, to your point about Kamala, the one candidate who she does pretty well in the second choice preference with is Elizabeth Warren. If Elizabeth Warren were to drop 16%, say Harris, it makes a lot of sense. They have a lot of overlap in their base. But it also doesn't look like Elizabeth Warren's going anywhere where Kamala could pick up that support. And I think, to your point, Colin, part of why Kamala has struggled and dropped in the polls, it has been as Warren has risen, Kamala Harris has really suffered from her rise more than anyone else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think what's interesting to look at with some of these polls is that we're still consistently seeing, Biden and Sanders, even though Biden, as everyone knows, last week did not perform his best during the debate, and he's had a couple of slip-ups already.
Well, it might have been his best, but it wasn't that great.
I love that.
They keep writing these candidates' obituaries. Biden, I mean, they're both remarkably resilient. They're number one and number two in the field. They both draw from each other's support. I think it is going to go, Elizabeth Warren is in the most tenuous position because if she drops off in the number 3 slot or in the number 2 slot, I don't think she has as firm of a hold on her voters as the Biden voter or the Sanders voters. And she continues to make her case. You were talking about that rise. That rise is drawing from the bottom of the field. It's not necessarily eating into that top two. And so what a true three-person race looks like, we haven't had one of those in America in a very long time. What do you think, Colin? Like, how does that actually shake out when it comes to the primary system?
I think, look, Biden is standing in one place, and I think there's going to be a big fight between the idealistic nature and the campaigns of both Warren and Sanders. Even though I think there would be some argument that working class folks may come from Biden over to Warren or over to Sanders as well, and that may be where they pick up some room. But I think it's going to be an interesting two-person battle, and Joe Biden has to figure out where he is in this thing, and if he's able to stay above the fray, then he keeps that support and he ends up winning. If not, if he loses steam and Warren continues to pick it up and starts to pull some Bernie Sanders voters, she's going to be in the pole position.
Well, one thing interesting, Marissa, to me is one of the lessons I've learned from this particular campaign, longevity. People just trust people that they know. Both of these, these three candidates have been in the political stage for over a decade in the headlines. And if you were some new young upstart, the JFK, I don't know if JFK would win in this election, right? Seriously, like these whole new young upstarts, the Obama,
kept trying to find
and all this
JFK,
stuff, it's not going to happen.
People weren't having it.
Yeah, people are not having that anymore. That tells us something very interesting about where the country is right now. What do you think that is?
Absolutely. I think the longevity, the name ideas, as we've talked about before on this show, obviously having the political leverage as well as the fundraising small dollar and big dollar ability is very important. We've consistently seen, kind of seasoned politicians like Biden and like Sanders. They're able to pull in those things.
Right.
Yeah. Colin, we have some other numbers from that same Morning Consult poll. They do a great breakdown on all kinds of different demographics. And what you're looking at here in this great tweet, thank you to this person for tweeting it out, is the age breakdown of support among black voters. And frankly, it tells a fairly familiar story, which is that the younger the voter, the more support Sanders has, and the older the voter, the more support Biden has. So while Sanders wins black voters 18 to 34 with 34% of the vote, Biden cleans up among black voters over 65 years
The
old.
older they get,
with
too.
55% of that vote. And as we know, those are the folks that tend to turn out.
Absolutely. And look, that puts him in a very strong position, especially in a state like South Carolina. I think the interesting part of that poll is that as you go down into the older voters, Warren starts to pop up amongst the older African-American voters. And I said, what is the trend behind that? How is she actually moving there ahead of Sanders? Because Sanders has never been incredibly popular with older African-American voters, but has always been very popular with younger African-American voters. The interesting thing is Biden is not actually that far behind in those particular numbers.
Right.
And so I think it's still a very close race there amongst them. And again, I think, Warren has some of the wind at her back.
So much of this is just the Obama factor, Marissa. I really
agree.
think it's just he stood by Barack Obama, and that is good enough for a lot of people.
Yeah,
and it's not about the issues.
Right.
Yeah.
I question if it is good enough because as we all know, Obama has not fully endorsed Biden
No,
whatsoever.
yeah,
I mean, their
No,
closest
on the contrary.
their closest endorsement was Biden tweeting out a friendship bracelet. But at the same time, we still have over a year to see how many stumbles Biden will have. His most recent was his showdown with a gang leader named Corn Pop.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, so things like that. Not to make that a 10-minute conversation, but
We already had that 10-minute conversation yesterday. Don't worry. We already covered that really well. I mean, I will say
He needs to bring the chain on the campaign.
he won't do it. But the one person who could sink Biden's campaign like that is Barack Obama. If he said a negative thing about Joe Biden or he said something unequivocally positive about one of his rivals, it would be game over. But he's very safe. He won't do that.
That's the thing, though. Obama does not want this guy to be president. I really believe that. Obama ran against him. He served with him for 8 years. His own team despised Joe Biden. They never let him in on any of the major things, and they disagreed all the time.
Well, and the reason he was picked to be vice president wasn't because he was the perfect woke candidate to go with the nation's first black president. It was actually a direct appeal to those people who may not be comfortable with America's first black president. So it's very ironic that he's now running on that to be his successor and the holder of the legacy. There's another really important news story, though, that we've got to get to here, guys. Sean Spicer made his debut on Dancing with the Stars.
Great
in that
shirts.
shirt.
I mean, wow.
Nobody knows what to say.
All I want to know is when is the
what to
Hill
say.
TV's dance contest coming?
Okay, here's what I will say.
I can tell you one thing. I'm not wearing that damn shirt.
Here's what I will say. If I ever in my career get to a place where I'm contemplating making this move, just please show me that picture. Just please.
Right.
If you do, we promise all to not let you go out in that shirt.
I think he's just having fun. He went on Hannity and said, "Look, I'm gonna go out there and have a great time.
Hey, listen,
I'm gonna be on a show
and
that
that's
my
fine.
kids can watch."
That's nice
that
of you to
really
say,
is fine. I don't want to hold too much judgment. I'm just. It's the outfit. It's the outfit.
Well, I mean,
and that's what gets me.
the producers did that on purpose.
Of course they did.
Just to
Yeah,
like
they know what they're
humiliate
doing.
him the maximum amount that they possibly could for ratings because
Mission
that's what
accomplished.
show business.
Yeah, hey, I've
It's all
Mission
about.
accomplished.
So.
Yeah, that shirt went viral.
Oh yes. All right, thanks
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Good
you
to see
much.
both.
Tomorrow on Rising, Illinois Congressman Darian LaHood weighs in on all things trade, including the U.S., Mexico, and Canada trade agreement.
And the president of the Tennessee Valley Authority shares his predictions on the future of energy. I'm excited about that one. As always, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Hill TV Live. And
Hit subscribe.
subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have a great day, guys. We'll see y'all later.